Hello to all my booty seekers and cheek chasers. This is the Carpe Natem Podcast. I'm your host, Nate De La Hoya-Reynoso, and I am so grateful you are listening to this episode. If you're new here, you should know that I believe that my purpose is to uplift, inspire, and educate others to communicate masterfully so that they can better understand themselves and the world around them. I've spent years in the personal development and transformational technology space, and I want to share with you the wisdom that was passed down to me from giants in the industry. So if you're on a journey of self-mastery, just like me, looking to make dreams a reality and willing to be a leader for your family and community, then join me in seizing the butt cheeks of life and giving them a big ol' squeeze. Let's jump into the show. Welcome back to another episode, guys. I am so excited to have my guest on here, not only because he is an incredibly talented, amazing individual, but he's also such a hard worker. And I have never heard anyone speak ill of you. Like, I've heard such compliments from other comedians, from such other people in the community. So it is an honor and a privilege to have not the host of The Jimmy Clifford Show and the host of Bomb or Get Bombed, Jimmy Clifford. Welcome.
Thank you, Nate. I appreciate it, man. It's good to be here.
Hell yeah, man. It's very exciting to have you here. Another reason I wanted to have you on here, like I said, you're very hardworking, you're very funny, but I have been around comedians who we were talking about some problematic person in the community, and somebody was like, out of the group of girls, was like, we need more people in the community like Jimmy Clifford. And I think that's a testament to show like how you are as a person is what people say when you're not around.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's very nice. Yeah, I mean, one of the big problems with comedians, I guess, is we're all so autistic and we don't know how to talk to one another. Mm-hmm. So, like, there's constantly going to be communication errors. I want everyone to have a fun time. In every situation. And
your energy embodies that for sure. Like, you come off with such high energy and you're always super excited, especially when the crowd is just like not having it. You go up there and you're like, give it up for the next comedian. Let's go. Like, and you bring the energy up in the room by yourself. That takes talent to do on its own.
Well, it's not even necessarily talent. I think it's more just stubbornness, because if the audience isn't giving any energy and then I don't give it any energy, then it becomes not a show anymore. It just becomes this weird thing. But I'm like, fuck you guys. This is my show. I'm going to be running it. Even if it's an open mic, it's 12 o'clock on a Wednesday, on a Thursday. It doesn't matter. If we think it is a show, then we're going to act like it's a show. And once you stop that facade, then everything falls apart. So I'm just going to keep doing it because that's the only thing that I can control over. I can't control you guys, but I control how I am reacting to the situation.
And that's a beautiful way of thinking. I really wish more performers and entertainers would have that same mindset, because if there's not enough people in the crowd, if no one's laughing, if the energy is low, they just give up. They're just like...
Yeah, but that's such bullshit, man. Chappelle plays to 4 or 5 people. Are you better than Chappelle?
Never.
Right? That's what I always ask myself. Am I better than Chappelle? No, then I'm going to do the mic.
And it's not like he half-asses it either. He goes full on. He gives a full presentation. He'll walk through everything with them. Doesn't matter what the size of the crowd is. And I think that's what really separates like the good from the great.
Yeah,
is that
100%.
kind of mindset. What made you want to do comedy?
Dude, I've loved comedy since I was 8 years old. Like, I've just been obsessed with stand-up. It's my favorite thing in the entire world. I remember coming home and just like watching Comedy Central in my basement, and I would just watch specials. I was like an 8 or 9 year old boy watching Louis Black bitch about like Republicans and Democrats, and I'm like, I don't know what he's talking about, but I like the way he talks. And it's just like, these individuals are getting the attention of an entire room full of people, hundreds if not thousands of people, just by the sound of their voice. And they're not singing, there's no band behind them, it's just them and a microphone. There's something really cool about that. So I wanted to be able to be one of those guys. So that's why I got into comedy. Not necessarily because I think I'll be famous or anything, but I just wanted to be able to hang out with comedians because I think they're the best types of people.
Love it. Which ones specifically did you really like as a kid? Because as a kid, I did too. I was listening to Daniel Tosh, Anthony Jeselnik. I loved Gabriel Iglesias and George Lopez. Those two were like my top.
Yeah, all the ones you named were absolutely great. I remember I listened to a lot of Dane Cook when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. Daniel Tosh was big. Aziz Ansari, he had a huge special when I was in like eighth or ninth grade. Jim Jeffries. There's so many. I'm like an encyclopedia of comedy. I'm just obsessed with all of it.
I loved it because I also was a huge fan, and when I was a kid, the biggest comedian was Jeff Dunham.
Yep.
And like,
I kill you.
And then I forget who else was there. There was Peanut. There was, and I guess I'm wondering what he's doing now. I was also, sad to say, a fan of Carlos Mencia.
Yeah.
And I loved the Mind of Mencia, and I went to go see him live too. But that ended up going in a different direction.
So when you say, I wonder what Jeff Dunham is doing now, it's still theaters. Like, he's still crushing it, bro. There's like this weird breakdown in comedy, I feel like, where there's people that are like, I'm a fan of comedy, and they get super into the world of comedy, right? Mm-hmm. They listen to all the podcasts. They know the relationships between not only the comedians, but the relationships between the comedians and the producers of other podcasts and this and that. And it's like, oh, there's a good comedians that you can watch, and there are bad comedians you can watch. And like the ones that, Midwest people go to see, they're the bad comedians. They're on, Young Sheldon. Dude, Jeff Dunham is selling out across the country.
Jim Gaffigan is destroying it. And he's clean. He's so clean.
Yeah.
And he's
Nate Bargatze, another one, super clean.
Love Nate Bargatze. He's one that I found out through a friend of mine, and he's like, you really got to check him out. And my favorite bit happens to be something about like a dead horse.
Dude, that one's such a funny one.
So yeah, there are all these comedians, and you kind of saw yourself as somebody who wanted to hang out with comedians, not even wanting to be one. You wanted to hang out with these people, and then that developed into like maybe even because you had so much study of it, because you observed it and absorbed all of it. Do you remember the first time you went up?
Oh yeah, it was so bad, dude. It was so bad. I was a freshman in college. I went to Gettysburg College, and which is in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania. I look online. I'm like, you know what? I've wanted to do this since I was 8. I'm going to sign up for an open mic. I'm going to do an open mic. The closest open mic to me was in Washington, D.C. That's about an hour and 10 minutes south. And I needed to bring 5 friends. You
need it as a requirement.
Yeah, it was a bringer show. I didn't know what it was at the time. I was like, they say if you bring 5 friends, you can get 5 minutes on stage. And anything for me to get on stage would be great.
Sure.
So, for sure. And I walk up and down my dorm room, and I'm asking guys in the hallway that I don't know yet. Because, we're all freshmen. We don't know each other. I'm like, hey, do you guys want to go a little trip to D.C. for the night? I'll drive. I'll buy you guys a round of beers when we get there. Blah, blah. They're like, yeah, fine. I get 5 guys who drive all the way down there. It's this packed room. I have all these jokes. I'm trying to memorize them. I wrote them there. I don't know how to write a joke, but I did my best.
Sure.
I go up. I eat a dick. Dude, it was fucking horrible. I ate it so bad. It was so bad that I got heckled off the stage.
Oh, no.
I did some joke. Actually, I remember the joke. I was talking about fraternities and how they don't let freshman guys into their parties. And I said, I understand why they wouldn't want me at their parties. Then roofies would be their only chance of getting laid.
Oh, no.
Not a good joke, but not like the worst joke you ever heard in your life.
No, I've heard way worse.
And this white woman in the front row listens to it, stands up and goes, no. And then points off the stage. And I was just like, okay. And I put it in the mic stand and I walked off. And my friends, the guys that I met, were in the back of the bar pissing themselves laughing at how bad I sucked. And then I had to listen to them just shit on me the entire hour and 10 drive back to Gettysburg. And then we get there and they told everyone in the whole campus, oh, we went to go see Jimmy do stand-up. He sucks. It was just, I'm like, there's no worse way that this could have gone. And I still want to do it again.
That's amazing. I mean? What about it enticed you to keep going back? Because that's a huge L, but you didn't take it to, I'm sure it affected you, but where you stand now as your shit's polished, your stuff is so good on stage, the way you're able to tell stories, the way you're able to really bring in and draw a crowd. I can't imagine that was your first set.
No, it was so bad. And I bombed. I've been doing comedy for 5 years. I think I bombed for the first 3 years without getting any laughs.
For sure.
I just was like, I don't know.
What made you want to get back on stage?
What made me want to get back on stage was that I know that I can do it, and I didn't want, I love comedy. Mm-hmm. I love comedy. And I knew that if I had, given up on stand-up, and then I went and I got a regular job, and, on a Friday night, me and the girlfriend or the wife would be like, why don't we go to the comedy club? I would be going, and I would think I could have done this if I had to spend as much time as these guys were, and it would have killed me. And so rather than have to deal with that, I'll eat shit now, and then it'll be easy later.
That's bravery, man. I bombed my very first set too. I went up there confident, but I made the mistake of just like not telling jokes, but just rambling for 5 straight minutes.
Did you have like an idea of what you were going to talk about before you got on stage?
I wrote some jokes down. I thought like they were really funny. I had worked them with my godbrother, but there's a difference between being funny with your friends and being funny on a stage. Or being funny on purpose. So I thought like, okay, I'm going to go up there. I'm going to get some giggles. Went up there, bombed hard. And then I remember, and this is how terrible memory is, but I remember going and thinking like, I did better on my second set. And I listened to my second set like a couple of days ago, and I bombed there too. I bombed terribly. But for whatever reason, I felt like I did better my second set than I did my first set. So I was like, I'm going to keep doing this. And now I'm a year in.
Well, dude, that's the whole thing is if you're getting better than you were last time, then like that's all you can ask for. Because, you know, we're going to keep doing it and you're going to keep getting better, and then it's just going to show. Like you can't do something and work at it and put effort into it over and over and over again and still suck.
You'd be surprised. I think that there's some things where I've seen some people who have is a difference between saying you're in the game and actually practicing. And you're right. If there's somebody who's actually putting in the time, putting in the work to get better, then of course, just by the law of averages, the sheer number of times that you go up there, the more you go up there, the better you're going to get compared to some people who have been in the game for a very long time, maybe don't really sharpen the sword as much or say like the same material over and over and over and over and over again.
I don't even consider that in the game.
You don't consider that in the game.
Dude, we have a job to do. It's like Jerry Seinfeld had this great quote. He goes, one day I was sitting outside at lunch and I saw these construction workers walking back to the construction site. And I realized that they don't want to go back to the construction site after lunch. They have to. That's the fucking job. You have to do it. If you want to get paid, this is what you're going to do. And he goes, I'm a comedian. My job is awesome. And sometimes I don't want to go back and write more jokes. And so normally I just say, okay, I'm done. Not if you're a fucking construction worker. You know what I mean? Like, you have to do some shit that you don't want to do, and you should be even more willing to do it because the rest of your job is so much better than everyone else's.
Exactly. Wow. I've never thought of it like that. And that's what that's bringing up for me is like, you're right. When you start losing that passion in whatever you're doing, think about like what other people are doing.
Oh, it sucks.
Yeah. They're digging holes in the middle of nowhere in the heat of the Texas sun.
Yeah.
And you're telling ha-has at people at a bar at 11.
Literally.
Yeah.
And to your point earlier, when you're talking about context, just about like how you can make your friends laugh in one situation, but you get up on stage and that same joke bombs. I had my family come visit me in Austin about maybe 2 weeks ago, and they came to a show. And I talk mostly about my family in my set.
So fun.
And I had this one joke where I'm talking about my younger brother, and they're sitting there and they're like, I don't get it. Like they just didn't laugh. They didn't think it was funny. And I was talking to them afterwards, like, that's not funny. Like, Michael would have never done that. And I was like, it's actually a story that happened to T-Bird. I just said my brother for the sake of the rest of the crowd.
Right.
And they break down laughing. They're like, oh, it was T-Bird? That's so funny.
Now they got it.
How does the joke suck in this situation and it's great in this one? But like, it's context. Because they know both people. So when I say my brother on stage, they're like, he would never do that. But I say my cousin, they're like, oh, he for sure would do that. Makes it funny. It's so weird how that works.
Well, because the crowd,
it doesn't make a difference to the crowd whether I say my brother or my cousin. I think brother makes it a little bit more close.
It does. And I think that that's why it works on stage is because I can imagine, like, because I have a little brother, so I relate to you. And I'm just all like, dude, my little brother would do something that dumb, right? But of course your family, they take you more literally. Like I have a joke where where the punchline is like, I identify as Filipino instead of saying it's basically like what do you call those when you supposed to say something?
Misdirection?
A misdirection. It's a misdirection. I say, I identify as Filipino. And that's the funny part of it. I had a cousin I told that joke to. The guy he was next to cracked up laughing. He looked at me and went, bro, you're Mexican. And I'm like, I know. That's why it's a joke. Like, it's so hard. And then you have to, and if you have to explain a joke, it's not funny.
It kills it immediately.
It kills it. But I also had something that I noticed is that when I started saying that I'm a comedian and I started doing comedy, I had a lot of unsolicited comedy advice from people who aren't comedians.
I know. You just gotta take it with a grain of salt because people don't know what they like. It's so weird. Have you ever I make a lot of online content, and I'll have people walk up to me and be like, "Oh, I really like that one video."
You do make really good content.
Thank you. But that one video that they're talking about might be like the least popular of all the other things. So like, oh, I don't like that other stuff as much, but I like that a lot. And then you look at it, it's like all this other stuff that you guys don't like is getting 10 times the amount of views. Mm-hmm. How does that make sense?
It doesn't. And they say a lot of the times it's like, let the market decide what's funny, let the thing. But it's just like, I don't think anybody knows what the heck funny is. Dude. It just, some things resonate with others sometimes. It's especially now that I'm, I grew up with Vine and now TikTok. I hear a sound that I just really, really like. I'll be saying it like throughout the day.
For sure, dude.
And just over and over again, like right now, that lady who got hit in the back going, spinning the night. So I still fuck up those lyrics because as a kid, I thought it was spending the night.
Spending the night?
Spending the night. Because you're staying out so long, you're spending the night out. And so it's staying alive. So right now I just caught myself saying spending the night.
That's funny.
Oh, for years I was like, that's the lyric. When it comes to being an artist, you said that you bombed for the first 2-3 years of your comedy career. What would you say to the person who maybe right now feels discouraged because they're kind of facing that they're learning their craft, they're trying to get better, but they seem to have like a run-in of a lot of bombing, or they feel like they're not improving? What advice would you give to them?
I would say that if you're a fan of comedy, if you decide to do stand-up comedy, I imagine you're a fan of stand-up comedy. And if you're a fan of stand-up comedy, then you have higher taste than you're able to produce at the moment. So the best way of seeing that is by watching yourself. Mm-hmm. Videotape every set you do, and then go back and watch it and say, like, what is the issue here? Am I not quick enough? Does the joke just suck? Is the delivery poor? Am I not looking at the audience? Do I seem meek? Am I like scared? Am I distracting with something with my hand over here? Did I not comment on these people talking when you can clearly hear it in the video, but you don't really hear it when you're on stage and you're wrapped up in your own shit? Mm-hmm. That's very important. Try to write a lot. Write every day. I did this thing for like 2 years. I called it Joke of the Day, where I just woke up every single day and I would write a new joke.
Wow.
I would just
first thing?
Yeah, first thing. Or throughout the day, I would just read a headline and I would write one every single day. And most of the jokes sucked.
Sure.
But every now and then you get a really, really good one. You're like, oh, I'm going to keep that.
Sure.
And jokes are mathematical. So the more you do, the better you get at writing them. And the more you're going to think in that formula almost, which is good. Because a lot of people, I find, when they want to start comedy, their idea of a joke is to just be sarcastic. Mm-hmm. And it's not even necessarily like there's a punchline. It's like because
for sarcasm to work in some contexts, you kind of have to know who that person is for it to be funny. Because if I know this girl and I know she's like this, if she goes, well, I did this, that's funny to me because I know them, but it goes back to context. Yeah. I don't know who this is. So like being funny in front of people versus being funny in front of your friends is just a whole different game. What I picked up from what you're saying and what I really, really, really like is that, one, you have to treat comedy like a job. You have to actually put in the effort. If you want it to be your job,
then you have to
treat it like a full-time job, if not more. Put in that overtime for that thing because that's what you're most passionate about. So treat it like it's a 9-to-5 or the same way you would treat a 9-to-5, right? The other thing is really analyze your progress, really take into consideration all of the minute details of what you're doing, from the way you're speaking, the way you're moving your hand, or the way you're acknowledging the crowd. Like, to have that level of analysis, to have that level of self-analysis takes a certain type of person. Mm-hmm. When you are reviewing yourself, what are your biggest kind of like critiques of your own art?
Well, that's got to be one of the hardest parts of comedy, I think, is just getting over watching yourself. Because you're going to be like, I fucking hate it, and you want to turn it off immediately. Mm-hmm. But then you're like, if you're not willing to listen to yourself, why would anyone else be?
Whoa. That is a huge knowledge bomb on people. Yeah. Heck yeah. That's a big perspective change, because if I don't want to listen to myself, because I have trouble even editing these podcasts. Yeah. That's why I got an editor, because I'm like, if I'm not going to listen to me, who the heck else will? That's a huge big one.
Yeah, dude, for sure.
How'd you get so wise, brother? Like, what?
I like to read, and I like to read biographies and figure out how other people that I have careers or lives that I aspire to did it, and then, as I go down my path, I'll see similarities, and I'll be like, oh, this happened to this person. They did this, and it turned out this way. Maybe I'll do this, and it'll turn out this way.
Any biographies that really stick out to you that really impacted you?
There's some really good ones. One of my favorites is a book called Like Brothers, and it's by Mark and Jay Duplass. They're two filmmakers. They made the movies Ted Who Lives at Home, The Fluffy Chair. They made a show on HBO called is it HBO? Yeah, I think it's HBO. Room 206. Whatever. They're like independent filmmakers, but what's made them super cool, I thought, they were living in Austin. They sent a short film that they made to Sundance, got it picked up, started making some money, bought a house in Austin, started making all of their movies under their own budget so they can make whatever the fuck they wanted to, and then they took that and sold it to these companies like HBO, rather than getting the money from HBO, making a higher budget thing, and then having everyone else be like, okay, well, add this person and add that, I just like do it yourself and then sell it and worry about it later.
That DIY is super punk.
I love that, for sure. Like that punk rock, fuck anyone else, I don't need, industry people.
Yeah, if there's no speaker, I'll be my own megaphone.
Yeah. Amy Poehler had a really good book. I liked Tina Fey's book. Steve Martin, his book was very good, but I couldn't get over how much of a pretentious douchebag he sounded like.
I feel it.
Oh, God. He's like, comedy was one thing, but I prefer poetry. Fucking suck a dick. Like, suck a dick, Steve Martin.
For the same reason I stopped wearing Nikes, I read the biography of the founder of it, and it's called Shoe Dogs. And the dude was a dick. Dude was a rich, spoiled dude, and she tried to make it seem like, I had to sell my car to travel across Europe. But then you look up what car he had, and he had like a really expensive rich boy car. So I'm like, yeah, of course you had enough money to go to Europe. Goes to Japan, lies, and says that he's a businessman, but because he's a white dude, they're like, oh, we trust you. So they send him money. They send him shoes, which he then sells because he has clout, because he's a runner. He's like an Olympic level runner. Okay. And he would just go to these track meets and sell Japanese shoes that were like superior. So like, yeah, there was some business tactics, but everybody he worked with, like he was a dick to. He talked about them terribly. The guy that sold all his shoes all across the East Coast, he treated so terribly. Yeah. Anytime something happened, his dad bailed him out. And then he would do dick things in business, like during the Olympics, Adidas had come out with a shoe called the Aztecs. So he made a shoe called the Nike Cortezes because who beat the Aztecs? Yeah. So it's like petty stuff like that. So I was like, I'm not wearing Nike anymore.
Yeah. I mean, other than the child slaves, but.
Oh, yeah, that too. But I felt like everything I have is made by someone.
I know, for sure. No, for sure, bro.
But I was like, I can't support this. And it's been hard because like there's so much Nike out there.
Yeah, no, I know. It's weird. I mean, I feel like American culture is very much like, if someone's successful, then that means that everything that they do is right. But there's a lot of people that are dickheads out there. And it's like, yeah, sure, they might be successful, but like, what are you labeling as success? Right. I don't need to be like the richest guy in the world or have like private jets and being on, Kevin Hart status. If I can make a living and do comedy, that's my biggest success in the world.
Right. And it's not about like how much you make, but if you're happy doing the thing, because you can make Kevin Hart money, but hate doing it.
And then you're trapped. They say that you don't get any happier after you make more than $70,000 a year. 70 is the cap.
Pretty much. I thought it was like 110.
No, I don't think so. 70.
So anything past that, it basically just buys
per person. It's like if you have a family, like a family of 4, then it's not the same. But like if you're making $70,000 as like a single guy with a wife. Mm-hmm.
That's what like
you're not going to get any happier the more money they pile on because you're already paying for all your bills.
I also definitely don't think that like money can change a person, but I don't believe that. I think it just amplifies what's already there. Yeah. Because if you're a bad person without money, with money, you're still a bad person. You're just one that can harm more people because of like the influence and the power that you have. Yeah. How like the more successful you get, like what's a good way of maintaining a sense of humility?
Oh, I mean, living in my family, you have humility all the time. My family just shits on me constantly, like all the time. It's ridiculous. Like I'll give you an example. when I was in 8th or ninth grade, we were going on a big family vacation, like my grandparents, my aunts, uncles, everyone. And I was always a very annoying kid. I had a lot of questions, and I would ask them, and I talked a lot, and they were like, Jimmy, shut the fuck up. So literally, before our big family vacation, my grandmother gathered everyone in the kitchen, and she's like, guys, we're drawing straws. They're like, what are we drawing straws for? They're like, to see who has to sit next to Jimmy on the plane. And they all were like, okay. And it was like a punishment to have to sit next to me. And they bring it up all the time. Like, whenever we're going on a trip, they're like, who's going to get stuck with Jimmy? So, like, that's just how it is. You know, and it doesn't hurt my feelings. It's just,
You probably have some like super tough skin. Like my mom.
Oh, you need to. Because that's how you show love and affection in my family, is ripping each other.
Same. My mom is so harsh. Like her favorite thing is someone else getting hurt. So I remember being like, I was a fat kid as a child, and I didn't fit into kid size costumes. That's how fat I was. I had to wear adult size, and I was a whoopee cushion one year. And I'm this giant whoopee cushion, and I'm running down because of this hill because I'm so excited to go trick or treating. I'm in 4th grade. I'm like, jumping for joy. And I fucking slip and just slide down the hill so bad that I ripped my whoopee cushion outfit. And like other parents ran to me to help me. My mom was dying in the street.
Oh,
just
dude.
keeled over laughing at me. And if I bring it up, she still laughs so hard that sometimes she pees herself because she loves the thought of somebody getting hurt.
I got one for you. This is very similar. I was when I was in high school, I had this thing called thoracic outlet syndrome, which basically the way that my body grew, my first rib and my clavicle went like this, and it cut off all the blood flow. So I started having blood clots right up in my chest, and so they had to remove my rib. Now, when I got to the hospital, I just had a bunch of bruising. I didn't know what the problem was. So I lay down, and the nurse starts to be like, okay, I have to put it in IV. And I was like, okay, do what you got to do. And she's going, and she just starts stabbing me, and she keeps missing. And she's like, I'm sorry, this is my first day. And I was like, of course it is. And she's going, and I should have known there was an issue because before she started, she put a bunch of gauze underneath my arm. So it was soaking up the blood. Like my arm was covered in blood because she had missed so many times.
Oh my God.
And so she finally finds it. Meanwhile, my mom is standing behind her watching her do this, just laughing. Like, it's funny to her.
Giggling at you in pain?
Because I'm not in pain, right? Like, how can I put this? I know in a situation like that, the nurse is very nervous, and me yelling at her isn't going to make her do her job any better.
Of course.
So the whole time, I'm kind of just like hyping her up. I'm like, yeah, you got it. Those veins are so small. You can do it. Keep, stick with it. And she's like, I'm sorry, I don't know he found the vein. And my mom's pissing herself behind. And then finally the woman found the vein. She looks at her clipboard and she goes, oh no. And I was like, what's the problem? She goes, can you go in the bathroom and wash off all the blood? I did the wrong arm. And my mom fell out of her chair.
Oh my Lord. Who does that happen to though? That's such a comedic situation. That's something that I would see on
that
like
trip
Larry
to the
David
hospital,
show.
That's only one. I have like craziest stories. You wouldn't even believe the stories that I had at that hospital trip.
I mean, I relate to you, not from the medical standpoint, but being the kid that was like super annoying. I was super emo, like hated everything. If it wasn't like me being in my house playing video games, I didn't want to have anything to do with it. And I had a older cousin come from Texas, and he was visiting. They took him to Magic Kingdom, and like for whatever reason, I was just on my period. For whatever reason, I was such a little bitch that day. And he had helped me with something on my MySpace. Before you could set a URL, it'd be myspace.com/whatever. He set mine to gay little joto, which means gay little slur for homosexuals.
Okay.
In Spanish.
Okay.
And like I didn't know for months, like, and I was in 7th or 8th grade. And then when I found out that you can make like a customized URL, I was like, I'm going to go make mine. And mine had already been set, but it was because I ruined his trip to like Six Flags because we had taken him to Six Flags and I was just not having it.
That's funny.
What
did you say when you found out that it was him?
Nothing. This was before cell phones. It was not even like I didn't even know where he was, but he now has like several baby mamas and has been to jail. So like, haha to him, like cosmic karma. No, I shouldn't say that, but still, like he's probably not listening to this podcast.
He was someone else's gay little joto in jail.
Exactly. So take that. Whatever happened to him happened to him. But
that's funny.
But it's just I was the annoying kid as a thing. And now, like, as I grew up, I see my little brother being the annoying one.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, he'll find a big plastic bag and shove himself in it and then go up to mom and be like, I'm just waiting to get some sort of reaction.
Yeah.
And I almost empathize with that because I'm like, oh, that used to be me.
For sure. No, totally. And I mean, I have 5 younger siblings. And so the weird thing is, my whole life, as I was growing up, I was also seeing what I looked like at that younger age. Mm-hmm. So, like, imagine, you're a sophomore in high school and you're looking down and you are seeing basically a spitting image of you in 3rd grade. And you're like, oh, do you remember how dorky and annoying you were? That's still you, motherfuckers.
Jesus Christ.
It was weird. I don't think I was able to, get back to, oh, okay, I'm Jimmy. I'm different than these other people until I was really able to move out of the house.
Yeah, I feel like some sort of sense of identity comes with the people that you surround yourself with. And if you're always around your family, you're going to start acting like your family.
Yeah.
You start really growing into yourself once you're out. When did you move out? Was it when you went to college?
Yeah, when I went to college. But then I moved back in with them during the pandemic for 6 months. And then after that, I moved straight to Texas.
Same here. So I was living on my own. I ended up having a situation where my bank account went in the red. I had to get bailed out by dad. Shout out to Phil Knight from Nike. Relatable. But dad bailed me out. And then I went back home, started living with mom again to kind of get my footing re-grounded. Met my wife. She ended up moving in with us. And then we got married March 11th of 2020. That following Monday, everything shut down across the United States.
Oh, man.
And we were about to sign a 2-year lease. We had both lost our jobs, everything. So we ended up living with mom for a minute.
That's fucking good, though, that you didn't get screwed, having signed the lease. And
we didn't sign it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Good thing. Fuck me, bro.
We were scared because we were already kind of on the level of we might not be able to afford this, but we'll try just to get out of mom's house. But then pandemic happened, everything shut down, everything went weird. So we came out here in October of 2020.
And where does mom live?
San Francisco.
San Francisco, okay.
And then everything was just open. So we were like, we should move here. Because if and the other thing was whereas we would be drowning in San Francisco, we are swimming in Texas. Mm-hmm. It is getting more expensive, but dude, over there we'd be living in a closet with 4 roommates.
Yeah. No, dude, I lived in New York for 5 years. I totally get it.
Yeah, the struggle over there is pretty much the same.
And the thing is, even the nice apartments are small in New York. All of them are fucking small. You're living in a box.
There's no space.
Yeah.
But everybody wants to be there. That's where everything's happening.
Yes, because it's good when you can go out and you can do things. But, during the pandemic, it was a ghost town. You couldn't do anything.
What did you do for the year of the pandemic, the first year?
So I was working in the city, and then the pandemic hit. I stopped working. I moved back home to Jersey. My dad, he has his own company. I started working for him a little bit. And this was it was such a weird world because everyone was in the sense that we don't do anything all day, and then we watch Tiger King at night, and then we tweet about it. You know what I mean?
That was it. I remember that. The only thing that really to talk about was Tiger King. And I mean, at the time I was selling loans.
Yeah.
And I had to also collect on loans, and I had grown men crying on the phone because they're like, I can't afford the electricity. I can't afford the rent. I can't afford the food. And I'm like, I know, but you still got to pay your loan, dude. If not, your credit's going to get smashed. And he's just like, dude, it was a rough year.
Oh, that sounds horrible. Yeah, I just went to my dad's fucking office. It was just me and him in the office, and then I would go home, and we would eat dinner, and then do it all again. A lot of walks, a lot of neighborhood walks, which I like. I like walking around the neighborhood, looking at all the houses with the Zillow app open. I'm like a little old housewife. I'm like, tear down,
Because I know you have such a crazy schedule, you're doing all these shows, and I'm sure, do you still hit open mics? Do you still?
Yeah, for sure.
So you're just nonstop working. How do you maintain balance
between work and life?
Comedy and life, and I'm sure you also have external relationships outside of comedy. But
yeah, so I call
busy.
my mom and my grandfather every day. I should talk to them. My grandfather, it's a minute-long conversation. He's like, you still alive? Yep. Okay, bye. And then that's it. In terms of, I never feel like I'm working. I don't. So like I work as a door guy, I do bartending, and I do tech over at the Creek and the Cave. If I'm working any one of those three situations, it's fun. Like I'm around my friends, like I get to watch shows. It doesn't feel like work at all. I also drive Uber, and when I'm doing Uber, I just have flyers for my show. Like I have flyers on me all the time.
Oh, so
and I just hand out flyers, and they have a QR code on the back. And so I'm talking about comedy. I'm trying to sell my show, and so like I'm distracted, and it doesn't feel like pulling teeth.
But everything that you do is aligned with like what your purpose is, and it's to be a comedian, to do these things. So even when you're driving for Uber, which seems like it's so removed from comedy, no, you're promoting yourself.
For sure,
you're
totally.
like,
I'm like, you're in the car for 10 minutes. You're going to hear about this goddamn show.
For sure.
You know, whether you come or not, it's not my business, but.
And that's actually, I mean, I'm pretty sure that they don't allow you to do that, but.
Fuck them.
Right, exactly.
I'm a great Uber driver. I have like a 4.99 rating.
Exactly. So and then
I don't think it's an issue.
You're giving them suggestions of things to do, especially if they're like in town, they're tourists, they're anything like that. They're going to be like, hey, do you want to check out comedy? This place is the
and if
place
people
for it.
get in and they're like, headphones on or something, I know they don't want to talk. I'm not going to bother them. But if someone's already talking to me, I'm for sure going to tell them.
The minute somebody, I remember that was my favorite part about being an Uber driver, because I used to do it too, was the like conversation. Like I just liked having conversations with I had some conversations with incredibly interesting people sometimes. One dude was born blind, and he liked psychedelics. And I was all like, so when you do psychedelics, like how do you trip? He's like, he gets a body high, and then he gets auditory hallucinations.
Weird.
Because he can't have visual hallucinations.
That's weird.
And I was just like, and he also dreams in sound.
I don't even know how that would work.
It's just sounds. It's just sounds and scenarios, and I'm sure like he's able to formulate some way of the world, but stuff like that you would never find.
Yeah, dude, listen, I completely agree. You see some crazy shit with the Uber. Every time I have like a crazy Uber ride, I'll just write it down, and then I like to make little sketches of it. And I
saw one today.
Recreations with my friends.
I saw one today that was fantastic. The guy who was with the flapjacks at home.
Oh, Michael Burnett. Yeah, that was a fun one. Basically, that was a real thing. I was driving this one dude home, and he's like screaming into the phone at his wife. He's like, I don't want to go to work. And I was like, what the fuck is this? You're an adult. But then like I got there and I was like, hey man, we're here. And he's like, he's so hysterical, turns to me, immediately goes back to like that customer service voice where he's like, oh, thank you so much for the ride. I really appreciate it. And then he just leaves.
Insanity.
It was so weird.
Insanity. I had somebody break up with their girlfriend.
Oh, nice.
Like in the back, like the whole car ride was just them arguing. And then he got off and he was just all like, thanks, man. Appreciate it. And I was just like, yeah, good luck.
Yeah.
I'm glad for you. I'm glad you finally did it.
The worst one I get is I'll be driving and this one dude, I remember specifically, I was in like Round Rock. I picked this kid up, face tattoos all over. And he's like, hey man, I'm a rapper. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I don't care. And he's like, you want to hear my rap? And I was like, nah, I'm chilling. Thanks, bro. And he was like, nah, you want to hear it? It's good. It's good. It's on SoundCloud. I was like, oh, I don't have SoundCloud downloaded. He's like, yo, don't worry about it. He goes in his backpack, pulls out one of those Beats pills, turns on the SoundCloud song, and then starts rapping above the instrumental, like live, as I'm just driving him. It was so weird. And what made it weirdest is that he kept saying that he had a gun. And after he said it the first time, I turned and I looked at him. And then he stopped rapping. He was like, no, don't worry. I don't really have a gun. And then he's like, but I got a gun. And I'm like, then why do you keep rapping about it?
Oh, my God. That's hilarious.
It was weird. It was such a weird moment. He made me uncomfortable.
My most uncomfortable ride was this, and I apologize for any racial epithets and curse words that I use, but I'm just quoting this man. So he gets into my car. He looks like he's in his 30s. He's like total skater vibes, and he's like drunk as hell. And he's just like, man, people nowadays are such pussies. And I'm like, yeah. And he's just all like, the freedom of speech is being attacked in this country. And I'm like, yeah. And he's just all like, people don't want to hear the truth. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, and he's like, it doesn't matter to me because I don't care if you're an N-word, an F-word, a wetback, a white person, or a Jap. You're all the same to me.
He likes Jewish American princesses too?
I just think that.
You know what that is?
No.
You never heard that before?
No, I thought that was just a really outdated term for like, this isn't World War II. Why would you call someone a Jap?
Well, no. I'm sure that's what he meant. But in Jersey, you can't really do it in Texas because there's no Jews here. But in Jersey, there's a term called Jap, which is Jewish American Princess. And it's like this Jewish girl with, short little bob haircut. And she's like, Daddy loves me and I'm the best. And that's who I am. And people do what I want when I want them to do it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, that's some dude's type. Like me, it's my type. I just love a little bossy Jewish girl, If someone's going to put me in my place.
I feel like this is a show I've either seen on E or like TLC for sure.
Yeah,
like
but they call it Jap. There's another one. It's WASP. WASP, White Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
I've heard of it. It's just for like a super white person, right?
Yeah, it's not like super white person. It's like a specific type, like a Connecticut golf club kind of WASP, like white person. Like Lana Del Rey is very waspy.
Got it. That puts it to like a picture to reference. I'm like, that makes sense. Yeah. But I guess I wanted to finish the thought on the Uber guy.
Go ahead.
So he had said 4 slurs, and then when it came to white people, he said white person. It's like, I don't care if you're a white person, And I was like, I think you missed one, dude. And it's like, I don't think you got kicked out of that party because freedom of speech is being attacked. I think you're a cunt. I think you're a terrible person.
You think you would have given him more credit if he said cracker?
Yeah, because then he was equally racial across the board, right?
Like, this guy, he's not racist. He's just an asshole.
He gets it, right? But he did it. He said, white person, and then Jap, which I was like, outdated as fuck.
It was weird because he bowed his head too when he said white person. He's like, that white person.
But that dude was awkward as heck. And I want to tell that story on stage, but it's so hard without saying, what he actually said. There's a way to do it. I'm going to figure it out. Maybe replace some of the words.
Yeah, if you replace some of the words, I think it would work.
Yeah.
I had this one joke that I thought was so funny, and it would bomb every single time. And then I just I changed it, the word of the punchline, to something else that means the exact same thing, and it always gets a laugh now.
Do you ever get scared about writing something or saying something on stage that'll cause like upset?
No.
No? Just fearless?
I'm not fearless. I don't really look for those crazy situations, Like, I'm not getting up there and being like, so race relations, let's talk about it. I'm talking about like little dick jokes. So I can't really get in trouble in the topics that I'm talking about. Plus, my main goal is to sell more of like the personality rather than the words that I'm saying. And I think that anything that I say, people can tell what I mean by when I say it. Mm-hmm. So, like, if I say something racist, they know that I don't intend for it to be racist. Or I might intend for it to be racist, but in, like, the aware way of...
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, I do understand it because there's a lot of intention behind what you say. So if you say it with the intention of hurting somebody's feelings, of course...
Which is never the case.
It's never the case with you. It's always like, we're here to have fun. We're gonna do good things here. And if we laugh together. It's a silly thought. But I feel like nowadays it's a little bit harder to get away with something. Like, I had a joke where, like, I'm racially ambiguous, where people just can't tell what I am. So that... leads, I can say the N-word sometimes and get away with it, right? And that's the whole joke. And and this is weird because like my relationship with the N-word is so weird because I grew up thinking that I was like black because of the way they thought my DNA was like black. I grew up in hip hop. I grew up in the Bay Area. Like I was just, that word was around me constantly.
Sure.
And I thought like, if you're not white, you can use it. But then the 4 types of people that I saw use it most were white people from Stockton, Asian, like small Asian women, Filipinos, and then Mexicans. And they all used it way more than any black person that I ever knew. So I thought it was just a word. Yeah. But now people are super upset about it. And somebody wanted to beat me up for my joke. Like somebody got on stage. I left. I didn't even hear them. But they got on stage and basically talked the entire time about like how white people shouldn't be saying it and people who be looking like this shouldn't be. Yeah. And it was weird because like I'm not white. I'm not. Like,
but also, like, if you have a big problem with it, why don't I just say something to you?
He went on stage and just took it out there, then went to another mic and did it there, like, and just continued it there. I don't know who this person is, but again, jokes cause people to get rowdy and sometimes even resort to violence.
I'll be honest, a cancellation would help my career at this point. You know what I mean? Like, give it a little livelihood, man.
All press is good press.
Literally, bro. Because here's the thing. Whenever anyone gets canceled, there's like, let's say, 100,000 accounts on Twitter that are like, this guy's a fucking dick, fuck him. But then there's like 500,000 that are just silent, that are like, he's actually really funny, and now I follow his podcast.
Exactly.
Look at Shane Gillis. He got fired from SNL, and now he's one of the best comedians of his generation.
Look at Tony Hinchcliffe.
Yeah,
took 2 weeks off, came back, it's doing arenas.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like they're saying that like cancel culture really doesn't help. It actually ends up like boosting a lot of people's careers.
Yeah, because people are now aware of them.
Unless you do something incredibly terrible.
But that's different. That's crime.
That's different. That's
You're
a crime.
going to jail now. Like Cosby was in jail.
Yes, and he should be in fucking jail. But like then
he
there's
got out in a technicality.
on some fucking chocolate pudding shit. Like he just got out. But you're right. If something happens where a joke ends up making you get in trouble, and I'm using air quotes, it does end up helping the comedians boost more than it does.
Yeah, what kind of a pussy really gets that angry at a joke? Something intended to be funny.
Somebody who shaves like the side of their head, and there's a type.
How weird is that though? Because think about it. 20 years ago, if we started doing comedy in like 1995, do you know who we'd be battling against? Comedians would be battling against old white people that go to church every week, and they're very conservative and Christian, and you shouldn't talk about the devil and sex and blah, blah, blah. And now we're arguing with literally the exact opposite. The person with blue hair, spiky fucking choker collar.
Interesting.
And it's like, they're the ones that are being like, you shouldn't say that.
And it's the church-going conservative
ones that are
ones.
like, fucking go
say it. Yeah.
How weird is that switch?
I didn't even notice that because I've been watching like Family Guy, but from like season 1, and South Park from like 1995, because I have the streaming services, so I've been just watching them from the beginning. And I was like, holy crap, this is what I grew up on. Also, they were able to say this. They were able to do this because now everything's so nerfed out.
I truly believe that you can say and do whatever you want, and people like Chappelle show that, but people are just scared, just like they were back then. They're just scared. There's certain people doing really crazy shit now that is very funny, and like, have you seen Tim Robinson's show, I Think You Should Leave?
Yeah.
So funny.
It's so weird. It's so different.
Yeah, so like there was one episode where he created a TV show called Coffin Flop, where basically dead bodies fall out of coffins.
And he's just like, there's no way that there's this many that are falling out. Also, why are 1 out of 4 of them naked? Like, why is this such a common thing?
He's like, are you rigging them? And he goes, I didn't rig them. I didn't rig shit. I didn't rig shit. It's like,
that show's so weird.
It's so weird and funny, though.
It is. And I'm glad that artists and creatives are allowed to push the boundaries of whatever is the norm. Also, they're showing us what they think is funny, which I think is hilarious. Because if I get to see the inside of somebody's mind and they have like a tremendously silly thought, it's perfect, especially if they're able to actually make it into something like into physical reality. Yeah. There's that other guy, I think his name's Nathan For You.
Yeah, Nathan Fillion.
That dude.
Not Fillion, Nathan...
Fillion is the guy from Big Mouth.
Yeah, he's Nathan Fillion's from Firefly. I'm thinking of Nathan Fielder.
Yeah, Nathan Fielder is another one of those comedians who really has those silly thoughts and then is able to like make them into something that we can watch. And we need more people like that. And we need more people like you. I wish you would stop getting taken down on social media.
Yeah, it is what it is. I think I've been getting better at realizing what is going to get me taken down. So like...
But I wish you didn't have to get taken down because you're so funny.
Thank you very much. That's nice of you to say. We like to put all the crazy shit on YouTube now. And me and, like I said earlier, I have a buddy named Greg. We do a podcast with our producer, JJ. And we're just doing so much new stuff now. And I'm trying to get, like, really into it. Like, okay, I'll give an example. We're playing this one game that I feel like could get us in trouble on TikTok. Mm-hmm. The game is called Black Girl Name or Pokemon character. And I just read out names and you have to tell me which it is. And it's so much fun because you always know the answer, but like they're so close that you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, you know, Watermelondria, or like that could totally be
a Pokemon,
right?
Right.
But, you know, it's just a stupid game. Or another game we play is called I show you a photo, and you have to tell me, is this person gay or European, based on the way they dress.
And that's a really hard distinction, because I've seen people
super difficult
in Europe who dress with, like, to the beach in a freaking thong, and they're like and that's a male swimsuit.
No, and it's not even like it's just like difficult.
Yeah.
Or like we do another game where
these games are so fun.
I love coming up with games. They're so silly. We take my friend Leo, who is ridiculous and crazy in the way that he flirts with women, and we put a mic on him. We bring him out to the bars. We have him hit on girls. We record the whole thing, and then we take the transcripts from it, and Greg and I read it back to each other as if it was a dramatic arts piece.
Oh my God. Like Drunk History?
Yeah, like that.
Awesome. That's a really funny idea.
Yeah. But we can do a lot of that stuff would get us taken down from TikTok, but we're allowed to do it on YouTube, which is cool.
Right. There's a real weird guideline mismatch of like what's allowed on like all the platforms, because something that goes really good on Twitter doesn't do good on Instagram. Something that's good on Instagram doesn't do good on Facebook. It's weird how like we have to use all these platforms in order to get out there. But like I said, your stuff is really, really funny, and I really hope more people get a chance to check you out. Before we go, I guess I want to end it on this note. If you had the ability to buy a billboard, and we could put it in whatever spot we wanted, in the biggest highway, the most trafficked place in the world, we could put it in Times Square. It doesn't matter. If you had a billboard, we give you full reins on it. What would it say? What message would you give out to people as Jimmy Clifford? Because this whole conversation, you've had thoughts of like authenticity, great work ethic.
I think that in any industry, for the most part, other than maybe athletics, you can become the best through sheer hard work. And so I think that if I was going to have a billboard, it would probably just say, shut up and do it.
I love it.
Because there's so many people that talk to me, oh my God, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing that. I'm like, okay, you're doing a lot of talking. I haven't seen any you haven't done anything. You know what I mean? Like I have ADHD, so I always need to be doing something.
Sure.
And I could just, fuck around and sit at home and watch TV and jerk off. But I'm like, then I would not be deserving of any success that I hope to have. And so in order to feel deserving of it, I have to work harder than everybody else that I meet. And so rather than sit around and talk about it, just shut up and do it.
That is such a powerful way to end the episode, man.
Yeah.
Jimmy Clifford, thank you for being such an amazing guest. I appreciate you for having me on. Tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram at TheJimmyClifford. You can find me on TikTok at Jimmy Clifford Show, or not Jimmy Clifford. I made 2 TikToks now that if I get one of them banned again, I have another one as a backup. You can check out our podcast, The Jimmy Clifford Show, on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, anywhere you can find that stuff. And if you're in Austin, come out to Poor Choices on a Thursday to see a show. Every Thursday at 9 p.m. we do a new lineup, new fun type of variety show. Sometimes it's a drinking show, sometimes it's just strict stand-up. Either way, we're going to get wild.
I love it. Thank you again, Jimmy Clifford. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, brother. Cheers.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Carpe Natem Podcast. If you love this episode, please consider leaving a positive rating and review on Apple Music or iTunes. It takes 30 seconds for you, but for us, it helps spread positivity to more people during these chaotic times. It helps build a community, and it makes me smile from ear to ear. Speaking of community, we have a Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/Carpe Natem. Just answer the 3 questions to get access to some extra motivation and inspiration for your timeline. If you would like to support this podcast, screenshot this episode and share this to your story. Tag me at Carpe Natem 114. That's going to be my handle across all platforms, including TikTok, if you'd like to give me a follow. If you haven't already, please rate us and subscribe on Spotify or anywhere you enjoy your podcasts. And lastly, you can find all episodes, linked to resources, and opportunities for coaching and mentoring from me at carpenatem114.com. I cannot thank you enough for spending part of your day with me. You are all rock stars taking the necessary steps to be your best self, willing to do whatever it takes, and ready to grab life by the butt cheeks. So until next time, this is Nate Hoya-Reynoso signing off.